talk to you guys about today is some information about Forest Lakes. Now, whether you've lived here for a long time or you're thinking about perhaps buying a property here, understanding the community itself is just a really important thing to know. It's not just about the cabins, it's not about the lot size, it's about the structure, the services, and of course, the realities of living here. Because I live here year round now, so I can maybe share some insight with you. I actually recently reviewed the community assessment report for Forest Lakes, and this is an article that comes out every few years from Coconino County. And what it does is it gives us a clear picture of what makes this area unique. So let's break it down. Are you ready? So we are a small, unique community. We are an unincorporated community completely surrounded by the Apache Sitgreaves National Forest. That is lovely, living in the forest. It's so wonderful. We have approximately 975 lots, and the actual area is just under 2 square miles. Our latest census back in 2020 shows a population of about 155 people that live here full time. And now that I live here full time, I can say that, you know what, that's pretty much accurate. People say that there are a lot less, but guess what? I have found that there's quite a few people that live here full time. The median age, so take the top and the bottom, go right in the middle, that's nearly 60. And 45% of the residents are older than 65. So what does that make this? It makes this a second home and retirement community. So without being a retirement community, you've heard of 55 plus communities. Well, similar, but not exactly the same. And you know what? Home ownership is super high here. Most of the people own their own home, at least 90% of them. So that's really awesome too. Now, how do you get here? Well, the 260, the State Route 260 runs right the community, and it's connected in Heber Overgaard with the 277 that'll take you up to the 40 and down to the 87 in Payson, which will otherwise known as the Beeline, which will get you to the valley. So Mesa, Scottsdale, that sort of area. Most of the roads in the inside here are gravel. In fact, all the roads are gravel, and they're maintained by the county. So when we're having winter weather, we see the snowplow come by, which is kind of nice. They even grade it in the summertime so that after it's rained and we have little potholes, they'll come out and smooth it out. No airport here, no railroad system, and no public transportation system. Although there is a shuttle that comes from Show Low that will go down the valley if you are looking for a way to get down to the airport. So of course, if you live here, you drive, and most people that drive will drive a side-by-side or a four-wheel drive vehicle. I personally have a Subaru, and it's great because 3, 4, 5 inches of snow, no big deal. And of course, you have to prepare for that winter weather, right? So, all right, governances and associations. So this is a big misconception area. Forest Lakes does have a owners association, FLOA, but it's not a traditionally enforced HOA, which is a homeowners association. FLOA represents our residents, and they also help us with reaching out to the county, state, and federal agencies. They are kind of, if you will, a form of government, but not really. So there's no mayor, no city council here. That's why we're unincorporated. But FLOA has the community center, and they have a special use permit for that to operate it as a club facility. So this one is a preservation focused community, meaning we're here to keep everything going and not necessarily amenity driven. We don't have we don't have a gym, we don't have a swimming pool, we don't have a golf course, but we try to work together to make things happen. So it's pretty awesome. Now, one thing that you really, really need to think about is fire and the risk of fire. And this is, I think, especially crucial for buyers. According to the USDA wildfire risk to communities assessment, wildfires are very high in very high risk in Forest Lakes. Well, why? Because we're surrounded by trees and we need to keep our properties cleaned up with the pine needles that fall down and some of the maybe dead trees that we have, cleaning out our lots so that trees aren't too clumped together so that we have better wildfire protection. And of course, there's more coming about wildfire. Got a whole series on that. So stay tuned. We also have our own fire district, which is awesome because not only do they provide fire protection, but they also have emergency management system, which is EMS, which is the paramedics. They have an ambulance and they have a defibrillator. They have all kinds of equipment at the fire station. So if you have some kind of medical emergency, you can call 911 and they will come help you. There are also 149 hydrants in this community connected to that water district. So what does that mean? It means if there's a fire close to your property, there's a really good chance, especially if you fired wires to your property, that the fire department will be able to come and manage that. So fire-wise compliance and fuel reductions are active priorities. You will see lots of programs that'll be rolling out in 2026 from FLOA, F-L-O-A, FLOA. They will be rolling out quite a few programs in order to help reduce those fuels. And what does that mean? It means, like I said, cleaning up the pine needles, getting rid of trees that don't belong where they're at. Trees came here naturally, but sometimes it's better to get rid of them in order to prevent them from causing more problems. Insurance. Yep, a big deal. It's almost a big deal to talk about insurance, and it's very much influenced by that wildfire exposure. However, you can do things at your property in order to get better premiums. Things like having a metal roof, things like not having a wood burning fireplace, things like fire-wising your property and being able to clean it up, the foliage near to your cabin or home. And it's always a good idea to start checking that insurability at your property early in your inspection period. So as soon as you get under contract or even before, start talking to your insurance agent about, I'm not going to be able to get insurance. So things to think about, right? All right, another thing that people don't think about is water and utilities. Well, water in Arizona, it's always a big question. Do we have enough water? Well, guess what? We do. The water comes from the Forest Lakes Water District, and they have 4 wells. They have approximately 685,000 gallons of water that they can store for nearly 900 residential connections. Remember, there was 975 lots. So of those, 900 of them have been developed with water connections, and they can make sure that you have water to your property. So getting water here is not a big deal. In fact, Forest Lakes Water District has been known to win awards for having the best quality water in the state of Arizona. So that's something pretty exciting as well. Wastewater. So what happens when you got to get rid of the water, right? Well, that's handled through septic systems, and many of them are alternative septics. And the reason is because we have rock and soil conditions here that are not necessarily conducive to a traditional septic system. However, some people are fortunate enough that they have traditional septics. So check with the county if you're planning on doing any improving on your property. That means adding any additional bedrooms to have a bigger septic system to be able to accommodate that, because it's really important. Our electricity comes from APS. So if you have APS in the valley, you can have APS up here. It'll actually show up on the same bill. And cell service. Oh my goodness. Cell service, super, super, super important. And there is a tower right at the fire department that is maintained by Verizon. Verizon is big in the mountain. So if you have another carrier, you might want to consider getting Verizon. Just because they are a big carrier up here, you'll have better service. And then we also have internet through Triad. There is a tower that comes in at the library, and at that tower you can then connect from your cabin to that. Some people have Starlink. Some people are actually even using the Verizon hotspot too. So depending on your service or where you're located, because if you're down in a valley, might not be as great than if you're on top of a hill. So, but you can get internet here. And you can always go to the library. They are open pretty much 5 days a week. And if you need library or internet services, you can still get that outside the building itself. It's kind of crazy, but it's available. So let me just tell you a little bit about where we are in our natural environment. So we lie within two major watersheds, the Colorado River to the north. Oh, wait, north is that way. And the Salt River to the south. So, of course, that's a lot of Arizona is in that corridor. So, of course, we want to make sure that it snows in Colorado so that we could fill up that Colorado River, and then that water will come down through the watershed. We have mostly ponderosa pines in our forest, and that's one of the things that attracts a lot of people to our area is because of the ponderosa pines. You're going to see wildlife here, especially in the wintertime when it's quiet, less people around. Things that you might see are deer, elk, bear, turkeys, mountain lions, and wild horses. So it's super quiet, and we are also dark sky friendly. What does that mean? That means that the amount of light or the kinds of lights that you put on your property are regulated by that dark sky regulation. So there are certain lights and lamps and things like that that you are not allowed to put on. And again, we'll create a podcast a little bit more about what a dark sky community is all about. We also need to worry about our bark beetles. When the trees die, they get infected with bark beetles, and that can wreak havoc on the forest. Our wildfire season, well, there really isn't one anymore. It's all the time. Snow accumulation can be sometimes crazy. In the recent past, and we're talking within the century, there have been 10 and 12 and 15, 17, even 20-foot snowfalls. So you can have a lot of snow at one time. And then, of course, there's lots of clay and rocky soil here. So, but it's a mountain community. We are not a suburb. We are definitely in the mountains, and that means there are lots of fun things to do. So if you have a side-by-side and you like to go out into the forest, you can have direct access right here from Forest Lakes to quite a few different trails. The Rim Run Trail, Spring Loop Trail, the Larson Canyon Trail, the Willow Springs Bike Loop, tons of off-road vehicle trails. Oh, and our lakes, Tom Pond is also stocked with trout, and the Canyon Point campground is just outside the community here, and you can access hiking trails there as well. So if you like hiking, ATV riding, equestrian, which yes, because you can have horses here, snow play in the wintertime, fishing, and cooler summers, definitely cooler summers, then this is a place that you might want to consider living. There are no grocery stores, so you've got to get them in Payson, or you've got to run up to Heber or even Show Low to be able to get that. Now, we do have a couple of convenience stores, one that's open year-round and another that is open seasonally that you can pick up any staples that you might need. So now, Forest Lakes is never going to get any bigger. And the reason is because we are surrounded by that forest, that they're limiting the way that we can grow. So we're also restricted in the existing zoning and commercial or conditional use permitting. So that means if your property is residential, it's going to stay residential. And if it's commercial, it's going to stay commercial. So really, there's not a whole lot of wiggle room for that. So in simple terms, well, what you see is what you get. It's low density, limited growth, stable character, and that's a part of what protects those property values. Yep, exactly. So here's some final thoughts. Forest Lakes, it's not just a cabin market. It's a small, preservation-minded, wildfire-exposed, infrastructure, limited forest community with extremely high ownership rates and strong second home demand. It rewards buyers who understand septic systems, insurance timing, winter access, fire mitigation, and limited services. But for the right buyer, it offers something rare in Arizona, which is cool summers, quiet nights, and forest living at 7,500 feet. So if you are considering purchasing here, let's have a strategic conversation first. This is Joan Lebigo with the Palms and Pines Group, coming to you from the Forest Lake Studio, helping you navigate changes in altitude and changes in attitude. See you in the pines.
Thank you all for watching this here video.